Welcome to the Investor Coaching Show, a podcast to help you get an insider's view of the financial world and escape common investment traps. We look at the financial news of the day and help you make sense of it so you can relax about money. And here's your host, Paul Winkler.
All right, back here on the Investor Coaching Show, I'm Paul Winkler. It's really funny. Oh my gosh, this is just such a blast from the past for me. I'm reading this article in the Wall Street Journal. They paid off their student debt in under a decade. So these people are coming out of school. They got a ton of student debt, and they're not making as much in their new jobs as they had hoped that they would make, and they still have these big student loan balances. One's $125,000, another $40,000. And another $55,000, say $46,000 was the balance on this one person. What's really shocking is how many people these, you typically hear about people say, well, they go get extra jobs, right, on the side. They go and deliver pizzas or whatever, or, one person goes out and works in a restaurant, and another one, goes out and this particular lady, she went out and refinanced a few times to get rid of some of the interest. Another person took a retail job, to help pay off. I am shocked at how many people actually donated blood plasma to pay off. They donated. Yeah. I know, Nick. I know. You know what? Not alone.
I should go do that. Donate plasma.
There you go. There you go, man. Go. I did that, actually. I will never forget when I first moved to Nashville. Oh, my gosh. What a difficult time. No kidding. I remember there's this one guy that I met. His name was Glenn. And Glenn and I, we were both broke. We were so broke we couldn't pay attention, right? As the joke goes. We were both absolutely destitute, and it was so difficult. And I will never forget the time that, Glenn goes to me, "Hey, Paul." Yeah. So, yeah, Glenn. He says, "You know what we can do to make some extra money?" I had forgotten about this. He says, "Let's go across town. You donate plasma, and they'll give you money for it." So Glenn and I go across town over to West Nashville, and we both donate plasma, right? And I was like, cool, we get paid for doing this. This is really great. Because it was a struggle. I just remember how difficult it was. And I guess, sometimes we forget stories like that. We forget, things that we've gone through in life, and we try to shield our kids from these same experiences and these same struggles. But they really actually created some character. Yeah, it gave me a little bit of resilience to have gone through what I had gone through, and I will just never forget doing that. And I'll never forget the first time I did it. Darn near passed out. Because, they take it and you're going, oh, and I start to feel weak. And, the lady sees me start to, kind of, oh, and then she goes, "Here, take some candy fast." But what a funny story. Just think of, and these people that's how they're paying off their debt. They're going and getting these odd jobs, and they're doing whatever they've got to do to make sure that they pay this stuff off. And bravo to them. But I thought that was an interesting little article, but it just brought back some memories as I was going through that. So another thing that hit me was the tax brackets. The 2026 tax brackets were released, and they had an article about where you stand regarding that. Now, there was something really, really interesting in here that I wanted to point out. There's something I thought was like, just kind of, it actually kind of made me mad a little bit. But anyway, so we have, of course, the way our tax system works. If you're married filing jointly, you have $31,500 of income that you can earn, and there is no federal income tax on it. That's your standard deduction. Now, if you have itemized deductions, you're able to deduct charitable contributions, mortgage interest, healthcare expenses, those types of things. And if that exceeds that number, you're going to choose that versus the standard deduction, right? So if we look at standard deduction, at least $31,500 of income that you can earn, and there's no taxes on it. Your next Your next, like 12,000, as I recall, something in that neighborhood, is taxed at 10%, and then you have another a little bit less than 40,000 is taxed at 12%, and then you have the next bracket up to 22 and 24 and 32 and 35 and 37. Now that is one of the things that did not change. Or tax the numbers as far as, because that was the big concern. And a lot of people are saying, Paul, should I go and convert Roth IRAs? And for some people, it makes sense. But some people, they were doing it because they thought their tax rates or the tax rates in general were going to go way up. They were going to expire at the end of 2025. And I said, not so fast. Don't get in a big hurry here because we don't know what's going to happen with the tax law. But a lot of investment firms were pushing people to convert. And they were talking an awful lot about it. And I kept saying, just hang on. And what ended up happening is when the tax law came through and these rates were renewed, then it ended up looking like a really bad move for some people to have done the conversion, because now they're actually not avoiding higher taxes or tax rates in the future necessarily by doing this. So you got to be super, super careful about trying to predict the future regarding this. But anyway, what happened was this. They decided that they were going to change the tax rates and how and what the levels were that you could earn before you hit the next tax rate up. So, as I said, for 2025, the standard deduction was $31,500. Well, for next year, it's $32,200. So they've increased it. And this is typically what they'll do. They'll increase it for inflation. Because, let's say that you earn $31,500 this year, and you can buy a certain basket of goods for that amount of money. It may take, if you look at inflation, it take $32,000 to buy that same basket of goods next year. So we want to keep the tax rate at the same level so that you don't have what's called bracket creep, where you're sliding into higher tax rates, even though your income from an inflation standpoint has not increased. Because that's not fair. But what they did in the tax code, which I think is just really pretty sneaky, is they basically did this. They said it will take more income to reach the higher bracket after a 4% inflation adjustment for the lowest two brackets, and a 2.3% increase for the higher brackets is basically what the IRS said this week. So in essence, what happened is it sneaks higher income people into a higher bracket creep or a bigger chance of bracket creep. You slide into a higher tax rate just simply because of inflation, because they didn't increase the amount of income you had to earn to hit the next bracket, if you're following me. That's sneaky. Now, is it the first time that the government has ever done such a thing? No, it is not. If you think back in history, when you look back at what does it take to, when you're paying capital gains taxes on a house sale, for a single person, you can exempt $250,000 of capital gains when you sell your house. For a married couple, it's $500,000. Now, when have they ever changed those rates? The answer is they have not. In the late 90s is when they put that into place, and they've never changed it. So there are people that are paying taxes on capital gains on house sales that because of inflation, they wouldn't have when they first came out, but they never changed the brackets. And the same thing with Social Security taxation. It's just trickery. Hey, this is Paul Winkler. Hope you enjoyed today's edition of the Investor Coaching Show. If you want to learn more about what we do, go to our website, paulwinkler.com. Until next time, I'm Paul Winkler, reminding you that I believe that more educated investors are more confident investors, and confident investors are more successful investors. Have a great one. Advisory services offered through Paul Winkler, Inc., an SEC-registered investment advisor. The opinions voiced and information provided in this material are for general informational purposes only and not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine what investments are appropriate for you, please consult with a financial advisor. Paul Winkler, Inc. does not provide tax or legal advice. Please consult your tax or legal advisor regarding your particular situation.